Hi, Spencer Ferguson here with Wasatch Software. With me today is Brad Rogers. He's one of our great technology experts, and today he's going to be walking you through an HP blade system. So, Brad, can you tell me a few things about the HP blade system that really stands out?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about the HP blade system. Specifically this model. This is the HP blade system C3000. And it's specifically designed for small to mid-business. So it's a great solution to implement some solid infrastructure components into any type of an environment.
Wonderful. And what are some of the components that we're looking at specifically towards the front end of the enclosure here?
Yeah, the first thing that when we're looking to implement a blade system solution for any business is a blade system is designed specifically because of its size. And with this blade enclosure, it gives us 6U where we're going to need to be able to put that into a rack. And typically, we have a lot of limitations in rack space. And so coming in with a blade chassis, similar to this one, it gives us that flexibility to implement it into an existing environment or to even implement it into a new environment. So it works for all types of environments and all types of solutions.
Wonderful. So what we're looking at here, it looks like we have about 8 different slots that we can slide a blade into. Is that correct?
That's correct. This particular enclosure gives us 8 bays. And each bay, you can put in a specific blade designed to meet your need. Also, these bays allow you to be more flexible. You can implement a storage blade, different types of blades based on your needs. So if you need virtualization implemented or just a simple blade for a utility or a designated application, this enclosure will allow you to do that.
And the computing power of each one of these blades that you could, a blade that you could slide in there is equivalent to, say, a 2U rack mount server. Is that correct?
That's correct. I like to compare an individual blade similar to this blade that we have here to a 2U server. So if we take that comparison, this enclosure takes up 6U, and if we have the ability to put 8 servers in that are traditionally 2U, a 6U compared to 16U, I get a lot more flexibility going to a blade enclosure and individual blades than I would traditionally going and trying to purchase 8 2U servers and trying to implement them into an existing environment or finding the rack space to do that.
Excellent. So we're only taking up 6U of rack space as opposed to 16.
That's correct.
So, and I think, tell me if I'm wrong, but the biggest reason that we're able to do that is shared resources. Is that correct?
That's right. It's shared resources, and that's where you start to get your value into a blade enclosure is shared resources, specifically into the back plane, because each blade will attach into the back plane. And as we examine the back of this chassis, this enclosure, we're going to be able to see why and where we get those advantages. The first component to this is that we have 4 individual bays, and these are enclosure bays that allow us to add different components to the chassis, which in turn are presented to the back plane to present shared information, shared resources to each blade.
And what types of modules can we slide into each of these enclosures?
Well, these modules that we have on this particular chassis, these are 10 gig flex modules that allows you to attach into a 10 gig backbone network. You can add Ethernet switches. There's 2 types of components to each interconnect. It can either be a switch that's a managed switch, so it's actually a physical switch, which traditionally we're thinking about a racked 1U Pro Curve type of a switch or a Cisco switch. You can implement that same switch into a module interconnect right into the back of the chassis. Or one of the great advantages of an enclosure, if you've already have that investment into your infrastructure, you're able to put that similar technology into an interconnect pass-through so you can pass that resource to existing infrastructure. So it's very flexible to either build off of that infrastructure components right into the back of the chassis or take advantage of investments that have previously been made to extend the chassis into those investments.
Okay, beautiful. So if you already have the switching, routing equipment in place already, you don't have to buy that extra module. Just get the pass-through module, you're good to go. And there's a little bit less cost associated with that particular project. Is that right?
That's correct. You can customize the solution based off of existing investments or existing needs. And not only can you put Ethernet switches and modules, you can also extend that to include components in the SAN infrastructure. Whether that SAN be a SAS SAN, whether it be a fiber channel or iSCSI, you can get those same components, a pass-through or a managed switch that can go to existing infrastructure or starting that infrastructure based off of the back of the chassis. And then each one of those interconnects then is presented to the blades, and as the blade is needed, can be presented that shared resources to take advantage of the infrastructure component.
Wonderful. And in addition to each of these modules, some of the other shared resources we have back here, fans, power, is that correct? And how does that really work?
That's correct. The fans and power, the first thing that I like to see with this solution is that we've got multiple fans and multiple power opportunities here. And that allows built-in redundancy and reliability. And for a system administrator, one of the things that I'm always concerned about is my power consumption. I'm always concerned about my cooling consumption because I've got to keep my data center cool and I've got to be able to keep all components online at all times. This allows us to do that. It allows us to reduce our footprint in both those areas. It also allows us, if something fails, that these are hot swappable. They don't have to shut down anything or take services offline to be able to service that component. I can simply pull it out and plug in a replacement part.
Wonderful. So really plug and play back here, and the opportunity for a lot bigger return on investment than with a traditional rack mount server by saving on power and saving on cooling. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Wonderful. And I guess let's go back to the front once again. And would you like to maybe just walk us through an individual blade and see what the blades look like?
Yeah, we'll start out with this blade. This particular blade is a BL460C. This is a Generation 6 blade that is a good starter blade to implement server consolidation. And when we're talking server consolidation, we always get into the virtualization world. And this blade allows us to do that. So going back to comparing this to a traditional 2U, I can get all those same components inside of this blade. That allows me to do the same things, specifically when server consolidation, to have local storage, memory resources, advanced CPU processing, and then attaching that into shared resources based off of this mezzanine card to get into the network. And I have all the components to be successful in server consolidation.
Beautiful. And this little thing right here has the computing power of a traditional 2U rack mount server, and you can see how much smaller it is.
Yes, very small, very simple, and it makes it very easy to be able to come in and configure this. Also, it gives us that ability to add for future components. So if I want to get started today and simply getting into a couple blades, I can do that and still meet my requirements to implement a virtual world. There's multiple DIMM slots that allow me to grow my memory. I've got the ability to put 2 processors in here and get into those quad-core Xeon processors. So it allows me to get started in this type of a solution and then continue to grow as my needs and demands grow.
Beautiful. So you can start with one processor, add a second later. You can start with just a few of the DIMM slots populated with RAM and scale up as your needs increase. Is that right?
That's correct.
Now I think everybody's pretty familiar with most of the components of the blade here. You know, we have our drives, we have our processors, we have our RAM. What's this component back here?
One of the unique components to this particular blade is what's called a mezzanine card. And this mezzanine card is simply the component that allows this blade to attach to the backplane to access those shared resources. And based on the need of the blade, that's where you go and get the specific mezzanine card. So whatever interconnect modules you have in the back of your enclosure, you need a mezzanine card that will allow that blade to, in a sense, talk to those components. If that blade is in need to attach to a fiber channeled SAN solution, if that blade is going to be hosting virtual machines that have higher requirements on networking bandwidth, the mezzanine card will allow you to do that.
So this is our conduit to access storage, to access you know, the cards that we talked about, the networking side of things, and also the fans and power supplies.
That's correct. There's lots of options that can be put into an individual blade so that you can have similar hardware, which simplifies your system administrative needs, but also meet the need of specific virtualization requirements, specific application requirements within using similar technologies.
Wonderful. So just to kind of sum things up, customers may want to look at using one of these enclosures if they are looking to implement maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 servers, you know, over maybe a 6, 12, 18-month time frame, and get the ROI there. If they have any constraints as far as, or limitations in regards to power, in regards to cooling, and in regards to space.
That's correct. This is a great solution that allows you to get some key core infrastructure components so that you can be successful in hosting any application. And in the IT world, we always have high demands of being able to take on a new resource, be able to take on a new application, and having the right infrastructure allows us to do that, and this enclosure meets those needs.
Wonderful, and really, thank you very much for walking through this, Brad, with us today, and kind of giving us an education on that. I invite each of you out there to contact us at Wasatch Software. We'd love to bring you into our office or take this equipment into your office, kind of personalize a demo for you, maybe load some of the applications that are in use in your environment, or maybe scope out a server consolidation project for you. Of course, we try to do that, a free assessment in situations of that nature. And don't hesitate to call us here at Wasatch Software, and we can really see what sort of return on investment we can help you out with. Thank you very much, and have a great day.